Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1249 to 1252 for the 26th to the 29th of July. 4 days, SITREP. So we're going to jump straight to the Sumy front. We're going to start from the Sumy front, and we have some geolocations in the Sumy regions of Kherson strikes. Not super important, all these strikes. Yeah, it's just some strikes, It happens all the time, so not super important. It's hitting some Ukrainian positions, but it doesn't really matters on the the tactical level. Over in the Sumy front, this is Sumy. Over in the Tekkino sector, at the Tekkino sector, we only have fighting being reported at Vasilivka for 1 day. So this is actually I need to adjust this. There's a 7-7, so it should be here. Yeah, my bad. So just notice this. So there's only one report. This is on the 26th of July, and after that there is no more fighting being reported in the Tekkino sector. So this side of the Sumy front probably went dead by now. Over in the north of Sumy, the Russian offensive operation in the Sumy region continues. Tentatively, the idea is most likely still to create the buffer zone. Fighting is being reported at Kindrativka, Andrievka, Oleksievka, Verskine, Yunakivka, Sadki, Murine, Krapeskina, Pistarivka, and Moritsia. So the main fighting is mainly where the Ukrainians are trying to fight back, particularly over in the Kindrativka region. The Ukrainians have recaptured Kindrativka, and this geolocation is actually an airstrike, where the Russian forces have have struck Ukrainian positions inside of Kindrativka. The Russians have tried to attack. They were geolocated inside of Kindrativka previously, but this seems to have failed. The Ukrainian forces have Ukrainian mapping have claimed to have retaken Kindrativka previously, and we have no further information about Russians inside of Kindrativka. Otherwise, the strategic situation remains largely the same, with the Russians trying to take back Andrievka and Kindrativka, which they actually captured and lost. Verskine, there is some kind of fighting. Probably the Ukrainians are trying to counter-attack, and there is some fighting being reported in these two regions, which was already captured by the Russian forces. There is also strikes, probably attacks by the Russians in these directions. I don't think this is an attack at this place, but in the direction, probably to establish the buffer zone. And fighting at Yunakivka definitely continues because the Russian forces have not captured it yet. And so in this area here, Moritsia was mentioned. This is only once on 27th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry report. Sadki is reported only once, only on the 26th. So even on the eastern flank here, is largely pretty peripheral. It's not really like the main fighting region. It still remains over in the north of Sumy. So Sumy is here, by the way. So it's mainly still over in this sector here, the main fighting. And I saw a comment saying that I don't watch your video most of the time because your maps is too complicated. It's not complicated, it's called information, So I replied the comment and said, do you want me to water down my map? Just talking about map. If you want to look at this map, the link is in the description. This is not like exclusive thing. You can actually go into the description. You can look at the map yourself. You can actually watch my video and manipulate the map yourself and read. There's sources to all the information. So which is why there's so many points. So otherwise, how do you know where my sources come from? Yeah. So anyway, we move on to the next front line, the Kharkiv front. So Kharkiv city, or the Russians like to call it Kharkov, or Kharkov. Sorry, people keep telling me don't read the K. It's Kharkiv or Kharkov. Is whatever. So there's fighting reported over in the Lipsy sector at Zeleny. There still seems to be fighting reported here, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 27th and the 28th. The Russians seems to be still trying in this sector here. So far, no breakthrough. Over in the Vovchansk sector, there is some developments. The Russian forces seems to be battling Ukrainian forces around Ohipseve, Hapishev, and fighting is reported at Vovchansk and Stalemate as well as Taike. The Russian forces managed to capture some grounds in the north of Vovchansky Kotori, with the Russian forces taking the forest in this northern region here. Then since then, there's no other information. There is an airstrike there's an airstrike in Vovchansk. Clearly show that the Ukrainian forces managed to hold their ground. So you can see how close this is. Previously, the Russian forces was geolocated here. The airstrike is here, which means there's a high chance the Russian forces have withdrawn back behind the Vovchansk River. They may still have some positions in the forest, but hard to say. So they might have retreated. The Ukrainians may have retaken the position in a counterattack, basically drawing the Ukrainians in. Because not every capture of the ground is aimed to capture the ground. Sometimes it's just to capture the ground and then wait for the Ukrainians and then draw the Ukrainians in because they want to counter attack and draw them into a kill zone. That is also a possibility. I have heard story from fighters on the ground saying that, you know, every time the Russians retreat, the entire trench lines and everything is booby trapped by the Russian forces. And then if you got hit by the booby trap, if you don't die, then FPV drones will come, artillery will come, and then you got wiped out, then the Russians can come back again, and then they go plant new booby traps, and then they retreat again. So, you know, it's the kind of crazy, dirty tricks, you know, we see in war that we would never imagine, you know, that war can be fought in such a dirty way, but that's war, no? So unfortunately, that seems to be the case. And the interesting reports is actually from the Russian Defense Ministry, talking about strikes near Oskil and Kharkiv. This makes me feel like the Ukrainian forces actually managed to take some grounds in this region as they counterattack and retake some of these forests, and then attracted airstrikes from the Russian side. If not, it is a bit unusual for the Russians to talk about these two locations. It just feels a bit weird. So we move on to the next front line. So by the way, this front line changes I already covered. It's just this forest, not particularly super important for now. There is no other indication that the Russians are going to go for a major push. Previously, the capture or this entrance of the Russian forces does look like as if they're going to go for first chance. Apparently, it's not. Either they failed or it's just a fake movement. It's a feint. And we move on to this is a artillery. This Ukrainian artillery got hit by FPV drone. Very far away. Not super important. You can also see where they are trying to hit. Like by measuring the distance, it looks like they are. You can see it's basically out of, by a 10-kilometer range, is largely out of range of Vovchansk. So it looks like it's fighting the Russian forces at Stalemate and Borova. That seems to be the case. You know, it is ranged around here. So yeah, of course they could be using artillery to be larger range, but no, 10 kilometers seems to be like a standard range, I would say. We move on to the Voronezh front. This is Voronezh, and in the northern flank of the Voronezh front in the Milove region, Russian forces is attacking Sumy, fighting in the region of Milove as well as towards Ambarne. So this situation remains largely the same. We do not have any frontline changes to note of, and there is an airstrike hitting the Ukrainian forces at Sumy. So clearly showing that the Ukrainian forces are defending the region, and yeah, they are defending the region. We move further towards the Oskil River. There is fighting reported at Koloziazne, Krasny Pershe, Petro-Ivanivka, and Fiholivka. So and of course Petro-Ivanivka could potentially coming directly, you know, from the river region. So there the situation remains pretty, you know, stable. Doesn't seem like there's any breakthrough here. Over further south in the Voronezh region, there is fighting reported over in Zaporizhzhia. This one is Fiholivka, as mentioned just now. So, but this is only like a one-off report on the 27th, so nothing particularly special about this. We move on to the Kupiansk front. This is Kupiansk, and this is the Kupiansk front, including the north. So, over in the Kupiansk front, in the northern flank, we have fighting reported over in Kindrashivka Radkivka and the Holubivka region. So it looks like the Russian expansion of this zone is definitely hitting some resistance because it's such a scary expansion. Super vital for the Ukrainians to hold back the Russians. And so far, since the last time we mentioned about the frontline change on the 25th, no further frontline changes was noted. In the rear positions, we have shelling reported at Osinovo, Blahodativka, and then geolocation of a Russian airstrike inside of Kupiansk, which is quite expected. Nothing particularly special about all these reports. Fighting is reported towards Kupiansk and Petropavlivka, and this is the routine. Also, nothing special about this. Although the fighting at Kupiansk could potentially be coming, from the north, rather than our usual coming from Sinkivka region. So, but we do not know. We have no further information since. So that's the best we have. In the rest of the Kupiansk front, fighting is reported as Stepova, Novoselivka, and towards Pischani. This on its own, nothing special. I don't think this. No, we should pay too much mind to that. We move on to the next front line, the Borova front. This is Borova, and at the Borova front, fighting is reported at Zaporizhzhia, Bohuslavka, Lozova, Zeleny High, and Novosiyehorivka. The main action seems to be concentrating more towards the northern region. Sorry, this is my WhatsApp. And there is a geolocation of a FPV strike on the Ukrainian artillery. Is history legend WhatsApping me? Yeah. It's a secret. I cannot tell you what he tell me. So he told me to tell you guys to press the like and subscribe button. And happy birthday to you who is birthday today. And otherwise, this is the northern attack, but generally we don't have any updates in terms of the changes. And then there is no news since the Russians create this weird appendage. So very weird that the information is so scarce. But operational secrecy, who knows? We move on further south to the Oskil front. Oskil is over here. This is Oskil, by the way. No, I can show you. Oskil. So so over at this front line, we have fighting reported over at Kharkiv, Druzilubivka, Andrievka, Novi Maya, Khrushchenkove, Rikodub, and Kharkivka. And the main change over here is the Russian forces claiming to have advanced towards Khrushchenkove. So this is a Russian claim by Russian mapping. So Russian forces allegedly have advanced in this way north of Rikodub, securing the north of Rikodub and pushing in the direction of Novi Maya and Khrushchenkove. So this is a claim though. We do not have confirmation of the advance here yet. Information is coming on the 29th. This is the latest frontline changes report. So that's all we have. The rest of the front line seems to be pretty static for now. Over in the Lyman front, this is Lyman, Krusny Lyman. In the north of the Lyman, we have fighting reported at Yampolivka, Koloziazi, Zelena Dolena, Serine, Shandri Holove, shelling at Novoselivka and Drobisheve. And the main changes is around Serine, Zelena Dolena, and Koloziazi. Over in the Serine region, Russian forces have advanced in this sector here. And this is mapped by the pro-Russian mapping. But we only have a corroboration for the one at Zelena Dolena. This is confirmed. Due to the geolocation, this is one of the latest geolocation, confirming that at least this portion here is 100% confirmed. The push is moving towards Serine, and this geolocation is indicating that the Russians are pushing directly at Shandri Holove through this riverine terrain. So in this sector here, there is geolocation of Russian forces further off in the north. So just confirming the Russian presence in the sector. So mainly that's the situation in this sector here. And then the other frontline change is over Koloziazi, and this is reported yesterday, confirming the Russians' entry into Koloziazi. So this is a an attack on the settlements that is long time coming. I thought this would have fallen like months ago, but the Russians never went in until now. So this is the advancement. The battle is still ongoing. So that's all from this sector. In the southern flank of the Lyman front, we have some major updates. So fighting is reported at Toretsk, Borova, and towards Yampil. Over through the Siversk forestry, the Russian forces have captured massive amount of grounds in the forest as they push in the direction of Kharkiv and Siversk. So the fighting is still ongoing within the forest. In the Ukrainian report, the Russians have went towards Kharkiv and then Siversk and then Siversk. So it looks like even the Ukrainian report seems to have moved. Like previously, it was moving in the direction of Kharkiv, but the last two reports seems to be suggesting that the Russians have advanced, which means that this advance here, this push westward have been successful by the Russian forces, corroborating the geolocations of the Russian forces in these two regions here. So yeah, so that's the main gist of the situation in this sector here. And we move on to the Siversk front. This is Siversk city, and this is the Siversk front, and this is also known as the Kursk. Not the Kursk Kursk, but this is the Kursed Kursk. Kursk front. Like it's just bad luck front, for the Russians, because the Russians had the worst experience in this front line, and this front line had always been largely a failure. But even the Russian sources, the Russian Oskil is feeling a bit happy a little bit. Like they still call it the Kursk front, but they at least feel like there's positive to it because things are moving along. Shelling is reported in the rear position at Voronezh and Zaporizhzhia, which is not super important. Over in the northern flank, fighting is reported at Kharkiv and Siversk. There is this very peculiar geolocations that confirms the Russian forces advance around the Siversk region in the direction of Siversk and from the northern flank of Vovchansk, also in the direction of Siversk. And of course, fighting is reported at Siversk. There is some plausibility that the Russians may have come even closer than our mapping to Siversk, because this is confirmed locations, and there is seemingly some indication that the Russians did try to go direct for Siversk and try to cross the defense line. And the Russian report seems to suggest that it might not have been successful. So this situation continues, but the geolocation definitely shows that the Russians are advancing, and this is definitely confirmed. Fighting is reported at Vovchansk, probably is the one that in the northern flank, and that's the push moving in the Siversk direction. So let's see. I think this front line is going to get more and more important in the next few days, or at least the next few weeks, as the Russians may try to end this front line once and for all. But of course, I might be wrong, because I'm always wrong when it comes to try to predict what the Russians want to do in the battlefield, because they are very unpredictable. They never do the easy thing. Like they try to make life very difficult for themselves sometimes. In the rear of Siversk, there is geolocation of artillery. This is artillery getting hit, and this is logistic getting hit. So and usually I like to draw the distance and kind of can see where are they supporting. This position is pretty good. They basically can shell all the Russian forces in all the different directions. So this is a pretty good position. But it is also because it's such a strategic position where the artillery system can literally target all the front lines, like where all the Russians are moving. That makes it a very obvious position for the drones to check out. So if, let's say, I'm the drone operator, I will basically use a protractor or something to try to find out. I will draw from all the Russian positions and maybe go up to 10 to 12 kilometers and see where the lines overlap. And then this area that's overlap is almost certainly the perfect position for artillery, I will send my drones there. So that is the how I will do it. Like I'll draw for example, like okay, let's do these few points. From this position, maybe it will be like this. And from this position, maybe the curve like this. And then from Vimka, maybe it's going to be like this. And this area here, you can see where the overlaps. Yeah, that's probably where the artillery is going to be. So ideally, don't deploy your artillery there. Right. But the problem is when if you have limited artillery system, then clearly the Ukrainians will have to deploy here. If you have more, then you can be a bit more creative. You can have one here, targeting the Srebrenica direction. Another one maybe in Svetoporovsk, and then at least this can cover a bit more grounds. But of course, this is a bit dangerous. Yeah. So there is a lot of ways to conceal, but when you have very, very few artillery system, then it can get a bit obvious where you might deploy it. Krivalivka was mentioned on the 27th, not important, super far away from the front line. And over in the southern flank of the Lyman front, Siversk front, fighting is reported at Vimka towards Zvanivka and Fedorivka. So the southern flank, like this is all very sporadic reports. It's all one report, one off. So I don't think this is serious. I think the main push right now is still in the north. The Russians are making this push, and then through the Srebrenica forestry. This is still the main arrow direction. This area here is the static line. I don't think this is where the Russians is going to push. So this is where the actions is. We move on to the next front line, Bakhmut front. Over in the Bakhmut, the most important city in Ukraine, which is not captured by the Russians. The Russians are fighting reported in the north, over in Novomarkove. Super not important, because nothing happens there. In the Chasivia region, we have fighting reported in Chasivia. Particularly, we have geolocation confirming the Russians have advanced in the Shevchenko district, and we have fighting reported at Stupovsky and Priteshny. So that is the current development. Despite this advance here at Chasivia, I still have a lot of reservations as to the Russians is going to capture the entire thing. Firstly, of course, like I always say, the terrain here is horrible. It's very difficult to fight here. Another thing is that it still doesn't feel like the right time to push. Although this capture seems to suggest otherwise, but yeah, I still don't think it's the right time. The Russians still need to maybe need to collapse this front line around Toretsk first. This salient here have to collapse first before I think a main push at Chasivia would happen, because if not, it will be premature. And we move into the Toretsk front. This is Toretsk. Over in the Toretsk front, we have fighting reported at Bilahora, Alexandro Shutine, Dilievka, towards Ivanopilia, Plishievka, Klerbambik, Katerinivka, Skibinivka, and Toretsk. Also over in Kalinove, Alexandro Kalinove, and as well as Yablunivka. The one at Toretsk is only mentioned by the Ukrainians because in the parallel universe of the Russians, Toretsk is already captured. But in the Ukrainian universe, the Toretsk is still not captured. Same thing for Shebinivka. The Russians did mention Shebinivka, so that means the Ukrainians definitely is still here, but Toretsk is secured. And most of this report, farther away, these are all by the Russians. The Russians are the one that is talking about the push out of Toretsk, and Toretsk is already captured. And then they are trying to secure Shebinivka. In the Ukrainian mind, the fighting is still inside here. So that's the parallel universe. You can literally see it inside of Deep State US report. Mapping that Toretsk is still in this not captured state. But in DPA's reporting, we have already declared captured since the 13th of July. I have done a report, a battlefield analysis regarding the Toretsk front, regarding how this is already a salient, mainly for those that did not watch it. basically this route here is already closed. The Ukrainians can only reinforce and resupply and rotate from this opening. This area here is water, so this essentially is a salient. So this is in case you do not know that this is happening. The fighting is still being reported at Alexandro Kalinove and Yablunivka. The Russians have not fully captured Yablunivka yet based on our mapping, so we're still waiting for confirmation. We move on to the northern flank of the Pokrovsk front. This is Pokrovsk city, this is Minokhrad, so we're going to the northern flank. In the northern flank, things is getting very messy. You can see a lot of things happening, so I think we need to do it part by part. So first thing first, fighting is reported at Rusinya, Batovka. The Russian forces confirmed to have captured Popivya after multiple geolocations of Russian forces, confirming the advance all the way in the direction of Volodymyrivka. So the Russian forces have advanced greatly, and the speed of advance, as mentioned in the frontline changes report, suggests that the Ukrainians have abandoned the position entirely. They did not defend, and they probably immediately go for the next line of defense due to the maybe the lack of manpower or something. So they have immediately redrawn back into the next line of defense, and the Russians have closed up very quickly, around 2 to 3 kilometers a day advance around this sector in the direction of Volodymyrivka. So that's happening, and moving further west of this position in the northern flank of the Minokhrad city, fighting is reported at Novotoretsk, Boykivka, Fedorivka, Zatishok, in the direction of Nikhanorivka towards Bilitske, Rodinske, and Novoekonomichne. The one at and also towards Nove Shakhove. And these far away ones are 27 on the 27, on the 29, and this on the 27. So there is this push, seems like pushing out after this Russian claim that have developed here. So this Russian claim here seems to suggest that the Russians have captured or fully secured Boykivka, which the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture. The straightening of front line here is also a Russian claim, including this over in the south of Fedorivka, but these are all very, very credible claims due to the height of war in this region here. The Russians are now already moving out from this front line in the direction of Zatishok, Nikhanorivka, and towards Bilitske. So this is all happening, and even further up north in the direction of Nove Shakhove, because Mayak is captured, so the push, or at least announced to be captured. So from here they can also attack Nove Shakhove. So that's a very, very complicated front line in this sector here. And Rodinske has been consistently being mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry that the Russians are attacking them there. So this is happening. Surprisingly, we have no mention of Chervony Lyman, which is very weird. Despite that, we have Russian advance being noted here by the Ukrainian mapping, that the Russians have already advanced in this sector here. However, Rodinske is the one that captured all the attention, not Chervony Lyman. So that's a bit peculiar to me. Over in the Minokhrad sector, we have fighting reported over at Novoekonomichne, Nikolaivka, and Marolivivka. So these are all not mentioned by the Russians. It's all Ukrainian reporting. Fighting is reported at Horodivka, towards Minokhrad, Sukiya, Lisivka, Novopalivka, Shunishivshine, Novoukrenka. The Russians announced the capture of Novoukrenka. They announced the capture of Bygyanka, and they have advanced at Leonitovich, fighting at Vifrove and towards Pokrovsk. So this might look very complicated to you. So let me explain a little bit. The main push right now is actually in the south of Pokrovsk. So this is currently the push by the Russian forces. This is actually currently pushing. This area here is a static front line. This is not being pushed. And then this area here is already captured by the Russian forces. So the Ukrainians are just coping over there. But the main push is actually in around Pokrovsk. This is the main push that the Ukrainians are currently defending. And previously there's DRGs or infiltrators or the commando units, special forces, whatever, that penetrated into Pokrovsk by the Russian side, conducting some ambushes within Pokrovsk. It did not convert into any form of capture. So, and this is evident by the geolocation of strikes, missile strikes on Ukrainian position, and these are airstrike. So the Russians are striking these positions, clearly showing that the Russians did not capture any of these places. So the battle for Pokrovsk is still in the infancy. So it's still not done yet. Svitli is mentioned I just mark it as shelling because they're just far away from everything. So that's the current situation over in the Pokrovsk region. We move on to the western flank of Pokrovsk. So fighting is reported at Kotline, Udashny, towards Novopihorodny, Novomykolaivka, and Borovka. So these are all pretty static lines. I don't expect too much from here for now, at least. And then just to note, in the southwest of Pokrovsk, this push from Vivrove is into Leontovichi is actually very threatening. I think this is actually very more of a concern because this will allow the Russians to create a like a foothold that will allow the Russians to continue their offensive into Pokrovsk. Although I don't think it's a good idea to enter Pokrovsk, so I don't expect them to do it. I expect them to create a defense line here in the southwestern corner and hold position, and then wait for the flanking operation in the north to complete. So that's what I'm expecting. So that's what it is. In the southern flank, over in the Oleksievka sector, we have the Russian forces geolocated west of Kharkiv, confirming the full capture of Kharkiv. There's other geolocation and frontline changes marking the Russians' advance westward, pushing the entire front line towards the Dnipro-Petrov border, which is here. This is the Dnipro-Petrov border. The fighting is also reported at Oleksievka, Zeleny and Dashny. So these are all currently happening. This push here is arbitrary. The Russians are just simply moving on. There's nothing worth defending here for the Ukrainians. And then of course Kharkiv captured by the Russian forces, confirmation through the geolocation. So that happened. We move on to the Koma front. So this is Koma. In the northern flank of the Koma front, we have fighting reported at Novohatsk. The Russian forces captured Zeleny High. This is now confirmed through geolocation. Russians capture, which complicates the entire tactical situation here for the Ukrainians. And fighting is now moving towards Andrievka, Kletsove, on known as Iskra, and fighting is reported at Tolstoy. The Tolstoy fighting is only mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 26th. Since then, nothing was said. And the Ukrainian mapped the front line with this needle here, fracturing northward, which is kind of like weird. Like this is a really weird mapping. Like you don't map things like this unless it's a blitz. And then you do not know where the forces went because they are blitzing across the countryside. This is not the right place to do this mapping. I think that the real situation right now is like this. All of these areas is under Russian control. And you can see it at least for Tolstoy, only mentioned once on the 26th, so that is gone. And then Pidone, there still seems to be fighting up to the 28th. So yeah, maybe there's still some fighting. Maybe the Ukrainians are still trying to hold back here, but this region here is all gone. So maybe like this, at the best case scenario. So moving towards this Koma sector. So in this region here, fighting is reported at Pidone, as mentioned just now. This front line here is straightened out to some better degree of sensibility, but we still have this impossible salient that still exists in the south of Marne, which the Ukrainians Defense Ministry mentioned they're still fighting on the 26th, on the 27th. Yeah, maybe that's the last, and then the Ukrainians are withdrawing out to no avail because it's already closed by the Russian forces. Fighting is reported at Vovchansk and towards Alexandrograd, as the Russians are already pushing out from where they have captured. Personally, I don't think this is. I think these are all captured already by the Russian forces. So a lot of frontline changes is expected from the Koma front, but we still do not have them just yet. In the Shevchenko sector here, you can see all the frontline changes is so big. Fighting is reported towards Shishnev. The Russian forces captured Melievka with geolocations confirming the capture. The push is most likely coming from Shevchenko, and this entire front line is now flattened and straightened. Then the Russians have all taken going into Melievka, and from Melievka they could attack into Shifneve or push westward. But tentatively, Shifneve seems to be the target. With the last fighting is reported on the 29th. The latest report from the Russian Defense Ministry, also the first time this is mentioned as an attack. The last report was in April, and that was clearly shelling report. So the Russians have now indeed pushed into Shifneve. So this push is currently happening right now. So all these captures is definitely true. Further south from this position, we have fighting reported at Komizhuvaha, Vinipole, some captures, small captures at Novosilka, Zelene Pole. The Russian forces captured Temerivka. Fighting is reported at Novodarivka. They are pushing towards Novohiohivka, and shelling reported at Ternove. And the main thing, of course, is Temerivka. At Temerivka, this came as a surprise when it first happened. This report is the latest frontline changes report, I just reported like 12 hours ago, with the Russian forces most likely coming from Zelene Pole, pushing westward, capturing the town. But this is only claimed by the Russian side. The geolocation on its own is insufficient for DPA to declare it captured, so not yet. But it's probably very, very soon, because this advance is too fast, which means the Ukrainians have abandoned the position. To where, I'm not entirely sure, but that is happening. And we move on to the next front line, the Zaporizhzhia front. So let the map load. And meanwhile, we are going for 100,000 subs. We are very close. I think we are around 1,000 plus. So, be part of history. Press the sub, and of course press the like button. This is Zaporizhzhia, and this is the Zaporizhzhia front, and this is the Huyaipole sector. This is the Kharkiv sector and the Kupiansk sector. Over in the Huyaipole sector, we have the mention of Chevone or Visoke, which is a rarity. It's mentioned on the 28th. It's a one-off attack, and that's all. Nothing new about that. Over in the Kharkiv sector, the fighting is reported at Sharifne, Maratomashka, towards Kharkiv and Novoandrievka. Similar situation. These are all very one-off-ish attacks. Nothing sustained. So nothing to really worry about or think about. And over in the Kupiansk, this is where the more sustained operations is. Fighting is reported at Kupiansk, towards Plavne, towards Stepnokhursk, and towards Lukyanivsk. And the Russian forces has been geolocated north of Kupiansk, moving in the direction of Stepnokhursk. So let me zoom in. So this geolocation is shows that the Russian forces have pushed north of Kupiansk. The fighting currently is also at Plavny, according to the information from the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainians' latest report from yesterday have declared that the Russians are attacking Plavny. The Ukrainians are holding the line. So the Russians indeed is pushing the way how I imagine it to do, which is to go down along the water line, the front line, the waterfront line, in the direction of Zaporizhzhia, establish the defense line, hit the rear position. And this is what I think they will do, and perhaps also flank and cut off the highway in the other side. So this is what I'm speculating. And I did mention that this push up north and flank in the rear would be enough, and it seems like the Russians are doing exactly that. We move on to the last front line, and which is the Kherson front. So at the Kherson front, we have shelling across multiple places. Tiakhinka, Tokarivka, Mikhailske, Sadove, Antonivka, and Kherson or Kherson. The main fighting is actually over at the Pridniprovsk. Just before I started recording, a geolocation have dropped. Russian forces raised the flag at the very end of the railway bridge, confirming the Russians have captured at least the regions around the railway bridge. And I have not mapped the entire all the region or the settlements here captured, but likely the Russians have captured them. So this is a major development with the Russians finally securing this area here. This is the railway bridge. So the Russians finally resecure this place. This area here, we do not know if the Ukrainians are there. So we shall wait and see what's next for this region here. Why the Russians feel the need to push to the edge of the Dnieper River, and are they going to do a crossing in the near future? So let's see. So this is the entire summary for the day of 1249 to 1252 for the 26th to the 29th of July. So thank you for watching. Happy birthday to you if your birthday today, in case you didn't hear me the first time round. And press the subscribe button. Give me the silver plug. I want it. And I'll see you guys in the next update.